Hi, everybody. We're going to get started right away because I know that I am one of just a few people that are keeping you from your lunch. There's one more really good panel after this, so we'll get started. My name's Nicholas Johnson. I'm the Chief Evangelist with Kahua. We're a software company. We provide project management information systems. We're the only PMIS system in the world that is low-code platform as a service. It provides some incredible agility through a expansive partner network. I've seen folks in here from Parsons today, from several at KPMG, and we've got some partners on the stage. Project Partners is out here on the first table, and I'll introduce my panelists with you. We've got some partners with us as well. So we're also the only FedRAMP authorized project management tool in the industry. That will mean more to you in the weeks and months to come as California is adopting something called StateRAMP, a cloud computing security standard that will be required on projects going forward. I think the county of Sacramento has already done that. So glad to be here today. My panelists are Sid Shah, the president and founder of Onendis. Sean Wahidi is a capital projects and technology advisor for Interactive Group. And Patrick Estredo is the executive officer for the Enterprise Information Management Office at LA Metro. So glad these guys are with us. Gentlemen, that's a brief introduction, but take just a minute to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit more about the work you do personally. Sean?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sean Wahidi. I'm a principal at Interactive Group. We are owners' representatives for construction, data, and systems. And my job there is to make sure that we deliver beyond our client expectations and help them solve challenges and problems. So excited to be here.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sid Shah. I actually came from Florida here. So we're a national firm focusing on project controls technology. So we work with a lot of DOTs, public owners in transit, and also healthcare side. So our firm focuses on the owner. We're going to touch about people, process, and technology. So we're looking at what's the owner's need, looking at the transparency between program managers and owners. So we look from their side, what is needed for them beyond technology, beyond tools, and their people. That's what we focus at.
And my name is Patrick Estredo. I'm hoping we keep the energy up like the previous panel here. We'll try. Technology is sometimes a little bit boring, but we're going to keep it up. My name is Patrick Estredo. Like I mentioned, I'm executive officer in IT at LA Metro. I'm starting my 40th year in transportation. That's hard to say, but that is the truth. And I'm born and raised here in Southern California, a little town of Paramount. Probably nobody's heard of that. But my wife has also born and raised here in East Los Angeles. So this is my neighborhood, this is my community, and I'm proud to serve it.
Patrick, as they were walking off the stage, I said to Eric from Long Beach, man, I thought Ted was supposed to bring the energy to that panel. So we've got our work cut out for us if we're going to keep that up. All right, we'll get started. Sid, I'm going to let you start. I'm going to give you the first question. It's an easy question, so I think it's easy. What technologies are must-haves for an infrastructure project?
Well, that's not easy. I think everybody's here to find the answer for that question. I think before it's technology, Nicholas, it's about people, right? In public works, public space, we have a constant that we hire people and we have to grow them. So as an owner or infrastructure world, we have to see what's our staff today, what are their strengths and weaknesses, and we have to look at what are we good at as an owner. Are we good as planners? Are we good as estimators? Are we good as project controls? That pieces of puzzles needs to be sorted first. Some owners are spending time in strategizing that, looking at, okay, I have this organization, I have 10 PMs, good in PMO, but I have a gap in estimator, or I have a gap in schedule and controls. So owners must look at their people strength, look at their strategy, then they should start looking at tools. Oftentimes, people would buy a very expensive, high-end, shiny tool and say, okay, I'm going to buy this PMIS system. It's going to solve the world. It doesn't. It creates more disappointment. So my advice for owners, look at your people. If you're good in estimator, if you have good schedule control people inside, invest tools for that.
So the first technology answer is that it's not necessarily all about the technology.
It's never been.
Yeah. It's funny, I go to a lot of these conferences. I've been to many DBIA conferences this year and CMAA and a bunch of owner conferences. There's a lot of talk about about contracting methods. And Patrick, you might have some thought about this, but I walk away from those, and what I continually hear is that it doesn't matter what your contracting method is. If you don't put together a good team, you're not going to have a good project. Likewise, if you don't put together a good team, it doesn't matter what your contracting method is. If you do put together a good team, it doesn't matter what your contracting method is. So that's a good answer, Sid. Sean, I'm going to go to you and see if we can get a more technical answer. I'll be more specific then. You've worked with a lot of utilities and transportation agencies, and Sid pointed out, it's about the people first, but there's got to be some commonalities on what the agencies need. But are there different pieces of tech from a project perspective that a water utility would need that a transportation utility might need, or are there some common things, or is the answer both?
That's a loaded question. I think if you were to take a look at regulatory requirements for agency, it's drastic, right? So I just want to first off start by saying that each owner is dealing with different types of problems, things that have never been done before sometimes, right? So that's a challenge in itself. In terms of technology, I kind of go back towards, if you take a look at any agency that has the life cycle of from your capital planning into your projects of design, construction, closeout, and then your assets operational, assuming that that's the kind of agency that you are, there is commonalities of different systems that you'll see, right? You'll have some type of ERP system, some type of scheduling software, some type of project management software. And if you were to kind of lay those down, that's kind of how we usually do it, to show the full ecosystem, there are definitely commonalities. Now, the trick is knowing which ones work for you to be able to make it work for you, right? So I would say there are commonalities, and as part of that, there's with your systems, there's the data flow, right? So if you talk about capital planning towards being operational asset-wise, there's usually a flow of information that's captured. So I would say that just taking a look at what works for you and being able to define and decipher through the different softwares that are out there, right? Do you need a software that's more out of the box rigid, right? You just want something really quick to go, or are you going to have materials testing requirements that have very special forms from your DOT? So it just really depends, and then being able to decipher the softwares. But I would say absolutely, you still have your ERPs, you still have your scheduling softwares. You can't get away from it. So
all right. So let me ask then, what are the most common? If we can't define that there's always going to be some baseline technologies. But what are the common issues that we need technology to improve for infrastructure projects?
I think kind of going back to what Sid was saying, just acknowledging that owners, and whether it's utilities, transportation, renewable energy, they have challenges outside of technology sometimes that impacts technology, right? I think getting through those and being able to know that is what's really important. But in terms of the challenges that we often see, if there's performance that might not be performing project-wise, what I usually see is people are typically in a reactive state. And so when you're in that reactive state, you're constantly doing stuff, but not necessarily solving your problems, right? Because you're reactive. And so what I encourage is, in terms of trying to have where you can utilize technology as a tool, is to be able to get a grasp of your data, right? I think it's the Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly had said, the goal is to create data, and from data we create information, and from information we create insights, right? And insights is where we want to get to as owners, to be able to have decision making, right? Be able to get to the root causes of what's causing it. I don't know if the answer is a question, but that's a common, the goal is predictability, in other words, right? How do we use the tools to be able to do that? And I think the key is taking an understanding of what you currently have, what you're missing, and again, laying out that system architecture, right? So yeah.
So that's a common issue, is that we haven't developed that path from data to information to insight completely, at least in most organizations.
Absolutely.
Patrick, from your perspective, are there tools that are missing in your tool belt? Whether it's something that you just don't have because you haven't acquired it, or you don't know that it exists, are there some things you wish, man, I wish I had a tool that would do that for me?
Technology is moving so fast. We've all heard about Chat GTP. We've all heard about AI and artificial intelligence. augmented intelligence, and that is the wave of the future. That is what's going to happen in the analysis of the data. We are producing, I have a slide on our presentations that I made, we're producing more data in the last 60 seconds than entire generations created in the past. So there's no shortage of data. The data is out there, the information is out there, but how you ingest that information is going to change. How you, when I started off in maintenance in transportation, 40 years ago, we used to run, these, and a lot of people in this room won't even remember this, but, these dot matrix printers that would print out these reports, and you would sit there and highlight the paper, and you try to figure out an analysis on that paper. That's gone. That now we have tons of data that has not yet transformed itself into information and actionable information. And so what we're doing right now is you're using a lot of AI, and we have a company that we're working with, Bentley Technologies. My phone now has a 200 megapixel camera on it. That's crazy, the amount of resolution that you can produce. So we can fly over a railroad track and take a picture of it and analyze that data with such specificity now using AI. We can find any abnormalities in that track and report that back and automatically generate a work order for staff to take care of it. We could never do that before. And so we're expanding on that, and we're continuing to build that out. And with the advances in AI, I don't know if anybody's used Microsoft Edge now. There's an upper in the right-hand corner, there's a button with AI on there. You can ask it, can you translate this website into the salient features? And it will do that. And then you say, well, that's not enough. Can you put it in bullet points? Yeah, it'll do that. And then you say, well, match that with the agency goals and objectives. And it will do that. And it's not something that is in the future or we're thinking about doing. It's available today. And so taking advantage of that world now is really what we're talking about advancing at our agency. And I'm going to, I think Sid was reading my notes here. People, process, and technology. It's people first. People first. Everything revolves around people, the process, and then technology. So getting them trained up and available to use that technology, use that. Every project we do now has an operations change management, OCM, in every project. So you can give them the greatest tool in the world, but if they're not going to use it and they're not going to know how to use it, then it's a waste. So change management is important, and implementing those efforts, your people are first.
All right, your conversation about data tees up the next question really well. And understand this comes from a guy who was a project designer who became a project manager and has for 20 years now worked in the project management information systems business. So I'm all about the project. I've always been all about the project, and most of us in the room are. But you're an owner of incredible assets. So here's my question. You've recently, you're involved in a rollout of an enterprise asset management tool, Hexagon, I believe it is, and use this tool for managing your portfolio after the project. It strikes me that all the data you need should originate in your project, in your project management information system, which is what we do. But I assume you've previously built a database of assets and whatever tool you're replacing now. So what about for all your new projects? Do you have an information system that will feed Hexagon that data automatically, or what does that process look like, if not?
No, but Julie Owens, who's sitting at the table here with us, is leading our department, our agency, with helping to provide some of that information down the road. We're working closely with our partners in our agency to start giving us that data. But you're absolutely right. One of the biggest challenges that we have a $68 million asset management system, and we're all of our technicians use mobile devices, tablets, to capture information about the assets that we maintain. And we're doing a good job of that, but getting that data in from a large construction project has been a challenge.
What's the delivery been like before in the past on projects you've closed out? How do you get that information at the end of a project or after a project?
Well, everything from a piece of paper to accidentally finding assets that have been built on our sites. So there's always been a challenge, and sometimes we've gotten a thumb drive with Excel
10,000
spreadsheets.
PDFs. Yeah, those are really helpful.
And I've literally walked in on technicians who are pouring through paper forms or that thumb drive with data on it and manually converting that into a form and putting it into our asset management system. So that is a very time-consuming, manual, fraught with errors and issues process that is something that the industry can help us out with, quite frankly.
You just said you found an asset on a site that you didn't know existed.
Yes.
Wow. I'm reminded, I met with a hospital system in the Southeast last month, told me about replacing chillers on a rooftop, paying for that replacement, and then finding out months later that they were under warranty. And 2 months ago, I met with a school in California that told me the same story about replacing roofs that were under warranty. And just because we don't get that data soon enough.
We had implemented our older system back in 2002 and 2003, and we implemented the warranty recovery process using our asset management system. We collected about $1 million in recovery on our buses a year. We went to $5 million the first year we implemented that.
Wow.
And it's been exponentially increasing ever since.
Sid, next question is for you. And OnIndus has experience with a lot of different project management tools, Kahua just one of those. What's your experience with the transfer of asset data from these systems into the various enterprise asset management tools?
Sure. I think it's before the system, it's the people we all talked about. So getting the people in the process, like the importance what Patrick mentioned, information exists. Those 10,000 PDF files, chump drives, that's out there. The subcontractors, manufacturers are providing that. But so we have to take that, make these people aware that project teams are people. This is valuable information. We need to store it. Then we look at the process, during design life cycle, planning life cycle, and start training them the importance of this information so that Patrick have efficient data. And then we look at tools who can actually support that. There's several tools. Go is one of those tools that has built a functionality where you can start capturing asset information as early in early design, submittal process, and then start moving in. And the project, when it goes to completion, our people processes needs to be working together and say, we need a standard operating procedures in place to transfer that information through APIs, through automation, so that we don't lose that information. We don't have to hire engineers and pay them extra money to go and find out what was that. That all can be saved. There are some owners who are actually thinking through that. They have formalized these policies and procedures. They've trained their people, and they're using technology like Kahua to manage that. That's my.
So it can be done.
Can be done.
Okay.
It's not hard.
Sean, you've got a different experience, similar, a lot of different kind of projects, a lot of different kind of owners. Can you add anything to that or anything contrary to that even?
I think something that maybe we keep talking about people and tools and processes. I think owning in a little bit on the process side of it. I think something that's maybe counterintuitive and even controversial, if you want to say it. I mean, construction is a perfect science, right? You're not going to just build a house and say, it's good enough, right? It has to be built to specs, low tolerances, etc. But I think the one thing that I'm also seeing is that if you take a look at software industries, and if you take a look at just high tech in general, being able to adopt some of the processes that they're using for the technology in construction, I think is where we need to shift to as well, right? Very often you see softwares in general just being implemented waterfall methodology, right? So we have to get it perfectly right to the T, we roll it out. The truth is, in large organizations, that's very difficult to do, right? To get all the buy-in, all the process, all the tools, it can take years and years and years. And by that time, you're 2 years into your capital program, type of thing. So I think the one thing that I encourage, which I know sometimes, is as long as you have your system architecture built in a way that you can be iterative, that is what I would really recommend as well, right? You don't have to wait 3 years in planning in order to roll something out. Look for quick to value, right? I know it's a buzzword that we probably hear often, but I think it's something that is extremely helpful. Very often what I see is, or resistance to change, right? We all see that. It's never gonna work. Some of the best advocates we've gotten are when we've been able to roll out a particular working prototype, right? And then in that working prototype, all of a sudden, that person becomes your biggest advocate. Once that person becomes your advocate, the department next door goes, hey, we want that too. So I think focusing on the process as well and how we change our mindset to accomplish everything we're talking about, but some of the incredible goals we're talking about, equity, right? I think we have to become a little bit more iterative. We have to start showing quick wins. We have to start showing quick to value, right?
So get some small wins that will lead you to your next win, build some momentum. I imagine this room is full of public agencies. I imagine that's even more true in a public agency because we tend to be a little more resistant, I should say, to change. So probably even more true there. All right, Patrick, I'm going to turn to you. I think this is an interesting question. I'm certainly interested in your answer. If we walk away from all of our projects and we learn some lessons at each one, every project's a little different. We probably learn something each time. If we learn something on every project, we should be able to say that our next project will be our best project ever because we've learned something more each time, right? So do you feel confident in saying that your next project will be your best project ever? And why do you feel this way?
The technology will always get better. The environment will always get better. Your knowledge, my 40 years of doing this now, I've learned some things that I've made mistakes on before. So you'll certainly get better in all those things. But again, back to the point of the individuals, the people that are involved. If you don't have the right people on the project, it's not going to work. And it was so important to me on this last project that we did. We actually made a presentation to our executive management team, our CEO, and said, we need to do this project, but we need to do it right. And we're going to put a lot of investment, a lot of time, and we're building a lot of infrastructure around the agency. And if we don't manage that infrastructure well, we're going to be in trouble. And do you agree? Everybody nodded yes, that's an important thing. So we need a dedicated project team to this project. And in the public sector, that just doesn't happen. Where we actually took people off of their job and didn't say, this is a side job for you. You're going to do your regular job, plus you're going to do this. We said, no, you're going to be dedicated to this project 100% for the next 2.5 years. That was a big step in the right direction. And I think if you do that on a regular basis and you bring the right people into the job, you will always be successful.
Okay,
I think
Sean?
maybe just to add to that too, it reminded me, we work with a utility up in Northern California, and I think what you said is very difficult to do though. There's dollars involved, there is time involved, there's politics involved in doing that, to put together that structure. What I'm starting to see, I would say, again, part of that mindset shift is actual dollars being put behind that. I'm seeing public agencies, utilities now start investing money in lean training, right? That was kind of a buzzword that we all just heard. No one really opened, to see what it is. But changing that mindset of people is, of those people, right, is what really sets up the next. So you can have lessons learned, right? Post-mortem type exercises, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Well, Sid, I think they've teed up your question. This next question I have for you. I've been going to these conferences for a long time. In the 80s and 90s, at all these kind of conferences, there's a common theme that the problem is that projects are always late and they're always over budget. And, we're in the 2020s now, and I go to a lot of these conferences, and the theme generally falls around the fact that projects are always late and over budget. So if nothing's changed in my career, what do we need to change, so that we're not consistently over budget and late? I know it's going to occasionally happen, but can we move from consistent to occasional? What do we need to do differently that we've not done differently for 40 years?
I think it's measurement. Like work with so many public owners, schedule controls from an owner's lens needs to get better. They need to set right expectations, how long they take to procure. And it's not sometimes in their hand. It is the policy, procedures, checks. So during planning phase, we get very ambitious. And we want to get the bill passed, and we get it. And then we start to execute, and then we'll figure it out. So somewhere we have to build a fine line of better processes and then use tools to track that. Like I've been coaching a lot of owners on this baseline concept. The PMs were like, we never used to do that. What are you talking about, baselines? We get a contract, we have money, we just start shoveling the ground and start moving. So start tracking your schedules and start introducing the concept of capital planning to your PMs, coach them. Some owners have taken the lead. They are doing that, and you will start to see results because they are investing in their people, coaching them on scheduled and estimating. That's not a very common scene in public works today, but it's changing.
Okay, thank you. All right, we got just a minute left. Rapid fire question for each of you, 20-second answer or less. Patrick, what's the coolest project you ever worked on?
This one I'm working on right now, the last one. I mean, we've got a great team. We got people that are knowledgeable, and we get to utilize all the experience that we've had.
All right, Sean, none of us know what we don't know, and unfortunately, it often means that construction owners don't know they need your assistance until after they're in their third or fourth or fifth week or month of a project. So when you're brought into a consulting project that started without you, what are your words of wisdom?
I think I'm going to go back to what I was saying earlier. Be iterative. Move quick. It's okay. As long as you have your system architecture in place where you can build on it, be iterative. We have to change our mindsets.
Excellent. Sid, you get the last one. What's the most important thing that you want this audience to take away from today?
I think keep investing in technology and focus on your people. Those are the two magic wands. If you focus on people in public works, it is a finite thing. You can't change that, but you can invest in them. There's no stoppage on that. Invest in your people and put processes together, you'll get your results out.
Thank you, Sean, Sid, Patrick. Happy Infra Day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.